All right, what is going on, everybody?
Welcome to Atticus II.
Atticus Live 2.
Yeah.
Where things are twice as fun, twice as risky, with half the amount of clothes on.
Better start stripping, bud.
Good thing his table's here. Yeah. All right, so what's going on, guys? Welcome. Who do we have here? We got Logan Dooley, Barry Hale, songwriter, Nona Yorbans, Brad Scott in the house. What's up, Brad?
Brad was asking what our drinking word for tonight should be, and I would start off by saying definitely extrusion, although I don't know if that's going to be relevant tonight.
True. Yeah. Well, it's always a little bit relevant.
We could do, like, project. I think that would be a good one.
Let us know in the next 5 minutes what the drinking word should be. Mm-hmm. All right, so what do we have? Corjester, what's going on, man? We've got Ernie O'Brien, Don Hoke, Greg Bradburn, Sarah Morton, Stephen Hurt, Robert Gonzalez, Tracy Tesmere,
Noah DeCoco, Tara something, the shop class. Oh my gosh, this is so hard. Troy Hooper, woo, Tara Caro. Man, I feel like I'm having a seizure.
Just scroll up. There you go.
There we go. Okay, we got Tim Hess, Kenny, we got Trippin' on Wheels, Natalie Smith. What's up, Natalie? Old Helg Roseberg, and many more. Where are you guys coming from, and what's your drink of choice tonight? We're doing some kind of lame but delicious sparkling water.
Yeah, but in super cool koozies.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, we also got Chicken Patty Fries. What's going on, guys? And Tim Leary in the house. That's our rigging surveyor. What's up, Tim?
Hi,
how are you,
Tim.
man? John Norden, Uncle Bob, Justin Madramutu, Mike Caldwell, Mike Clark, BK, Jordan Rials, Eldwin Martin. So, and in fact, Eldwin Martin, I think, is saying he's saying hello from Belize. What's going on? Nice. So, guys,
better believe it.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're super stoked. We've been doing a lot of boat projects for a little while now, and we figured it would be a good time to just sort of reconnect, kind of ground ourselves, and make sure that we all are on the same page with kind of where we're at, where the boat's at. So first of all, bud, okay, it's funny because at least one time a day, Desiree just stops what she's doing and goes like, I love this boat.
You do.
And so do you want to just tell us how you love the boat and why? I feel like that's a good place to start.
Yeah, I would say we've had a lot of unexpected projects to do, but they're a lot different than the projects we were doing on Atticus I. Like, we're not recoring the deck, we're not rebuilding a bulkhead, we're not taking the paint down to gel coat and spraying everything and reapplying all of our, like, refairing, doing all of the non-skid. And so what I appreciate about this boat is, like, the kind of projects that we're working on. I was supposed to silence that, but I didn't. The kind of projects that we're working on are just kind of like, this life would be better if we had, running water, but we're not going to sink because we don't have running water.
Well, I mean, even that, I would argue, is, sorry, I got it.
See, it's harder than it looks.
Sound off. Okay. And even that, I would say, like, with the water, right? Drinking water, running water is pretty important. We only really went a couple of days where the major systems on the boat weren't functional. And we're slowly getting to a point now where pretty much none of the projects that we have left are, what would you say, urgent. I'd say the urgent projects are starting to be completed, and we're moving into projects that we can do, but we don't have to just live on the boat.
And so I think our next goal really is to just get moving, and so we want to get out on anchor. We want to get the boat ready so we can be out at anchor for, maybe like a week at a time. Because really we want to take advantage of the cruising season up in Maine, because throughout all of our cruising experience, we've pretty much missed every ideal cruising season and like ideal time to be cruising, because we're always doing projects, and then before we know it, we're like, well, we should have left 2 months ago, but now we'll just stay here.
Yeah, true. And I think there's a lot to be said for trying to use the boat before we really make firm decisions on what we need to do to the boat. Because our list is going to be, in fact, I think that could be one drinking word is project for sure. So that's going to be one. And then we had a couple others that people were saying here. Brad Scott was saying transmission, but I'm probably not going to talk too much about the transmission. Daniel Oliver said boat projects. So, yeah, I think that's going to be definitely one of them. And if you guys have any other ideas, shoot them our way. But anyway, so there you go, boat projects.
Cheers.
Woo, going crazy.
I wanted to address one of our questions from one of our patrons, which was, when will we be renaming Atticus II? And we actually put in our order for the boat lettering today. So hopefully it'll be in maybe in 2 episodes from now.
Yeah, it's happening shortly.
Yeah.
But real quick, before we kind of blast past, what we love about the boat, what we think about this boat, I think that Desiree put it well in a previous episode where it's a really good foundation. The foundation of this boat is amazing. Every time I look places, like in the bilges and the compartments with all the different systems, now that I'm getting to know the boat, the bones of this boat are really, really good. But it's not just the bones. It's like the bones, the muscle, the organs. It's all in great shape. This, like, parts of the skin, and it's having this is a terrible analogy.
I'm following you, buddy. Does it have acne?
The boat needs physical therapy, maybe an acne treatment. Right, exactly. Like a little bit of an acid face wash, and it's gonna be good to go. Because even the skin is a bad analogy, because the boat looks really good.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
So, long story short, the more projects that we do to this boat, the more I get to know the systems, the more I really feel really good about putting this time and energy into this boat, because I really do feel like we just kind of got to get over this hump, and we're going to be really on top of the maintenance on this thing, and we can kind of start going really solid towards outfitting the boat for long distance voyaging, which hopefully will kind of transition into those sorts of projects here in the near future.
So I think we've got like a couple of stages of projects. The first one is basically what we're finishing up now, just like a couple of little things that we need to make sure.
Oh shit, we need to do this now.
Yeah. But we're basically done with those. And then the next phase of our projects is going to be, okay, we want to get the boat in a situation, they're up to speed so that we can anchor out for a couple of nights at the very least. And so we're getting our anchor chain redone. We just got a new anchor from Mantis. We don't have little shit in the States right now, so we're trying to figure out how to get it to us from Panama.
Yeah.
Or
dinghy issues.
Yeah.
Did you say anchor stuff?
Anchor stuff.
Yeah, trying to make sure the anchor is all good. And we just got our new Mantis M2 anchor in the other day, so we're good there. That. Yeah, ooh. I wasn't listening. I'm just kidding. Don't tell her, though. She'll get mad.
And then as far as, like, our electrical system for anchoring out for a couple of days, we're just going to try to, like, see how far we can push the boat, because ideally, long-term, we'd like to get a really robust electrical system, like solar panels, set up, maybe upgrade to lithium batteries. But for now, we just want to be able to anchor out for a couple of nights. So
yeah. And in fact, Daniel Oliver asked solar, and that's a lot of our situation right now. Is the boat, the only power generation on the boat is an 80 amp alternator that's connected to the main engine, which is pretty much the same alternator that Atticus I had, and Atticus I had probably a little under half of the battery capacity that this boat has. And so anyway, this boat is a lot more power hungry than Atticus I was. So this boat is just not really set up at all for staying off-grid, disconnected for long periods of time. I'm a little curious to see how that 80 amp alternator would even do keeping up with our electrical demands were we to unplug. And so we're going to try it. Our first step is going to be going from here up to Maine. So we're probably going to stop in, Block Island, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, that kind of stuff on our way north. And we're going to be anchoring in a lot of those places. And so I just don't really know. We may have kind of a net electricity loss every day. It won't be much because we'll be recharging the batteries, but it may every day get a little bit lower. And so if that's the case, then we're just going to have to limit the amount of time that we're at anchor until we can get up to Maine and until we can install like a bigger, badder charging system. So I don't want to dive into this too much, but we're looking at working with Ocean Planet Energy. That Nigel Calder's set up the integral system. We're looking at doing like kind of the baby brother of the integral system. So it's a variable charge rate alternator that you can hook up to the engine. And then we're going to also be installing solar panels on the hardtop that we're hoping to have built, and that wouldn't be until probably after the main cruising season. So first step is going to get power generation from the engine. Second step is going to be installing solar panels and everything else. The last thing I'll say about that is the main reason that I'm looking at a heavy-duty charging setup from the main engine is because the boat is a canoe stern. We can't get as much solar up as I'd like. If the boat had a wider transom, we'd probably be able to get more solar up that way, because we don't want the solar panels extending past the boat kind of thing. So long story short, I want to make sure that we're good to go whether there's much sun or not. So that's our electrical situation. It's going to be a big part of what's next, and it's a big part of sort of our limiting factor right now.
Yeah, and I don't know if you went into it, but we're kind of in limbo right now because the last marina we were at, they basically ran out of space for us. So we had to just quickly find somewhere to go. So we found this marina that we're at now, which is down the river in Branford still. And they're going to start picking up their business in like 2 weeks. So we've got this 2-week period where we're just kind of getting organized for the mini refit and for working on these electrical projects where we can order everything that we need and also figure out where our home base is going to be, because every single marina I've called is full.
Yeah.
So that's actually a big issue that we're dealing with. And so in that case, we're kind of thinking, well, maybe we should like start trying to like outfit Atticus II right now so that we could live out at Anchor, but maybe we'll find a home base that has a slip. So we're like in this weird limbo stage right now.
Yeah, trying to decide how deep into the rabbit hole do we want to go now, right? Because once you open up the can of worms, what do you gotta do? Eat the worms? You gotta get all the worms out of the can once you open it, or else you're going to have worms all over the place.
And your worms are going to have skin problems.
And you're going to need to treat the worm's acne. Yeah, exactly. It's going to get really weird really quick.
And then something else we've been kind of toying with is we're also trying to get ahead on the like admin side of our work. We spend a lot of time on our videos, and we love being able to do that. But something that we're thinking about long term is maybe hiring a video editing team to kind of start helping us a little bit with our videos. So that's something we're also kind of looking to in the back end. So if any of you guys know of a really good video editor or video editing team, go ahead and shoot me an email at des@projectatticus.com.
Yeah.
And so that's also something that like takes up a lot of our time in the back end and won't really be reflected in our videos.
Mm-hmm.
Want to give a couple of thank yous real quick, actually.
Okay.
So thank you so much to Joseph Lee, SC Scott Wise. He says, are you guys going to be at the U.S. Sailboat Show in October? And actually, I'm pretty sure that we are going.
To the Annapolis Sailboat Show in October.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to come hang out, that'll be a good time to kick it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, kick it with Jordan.
Kick it with Jay.
Yeah,
Kick
and
it
so
with J-Dub.
yeah, the last time we went, we organized a bunch of viewer sales, and so we definitely want to do a couple more of those. So look forward to some announcements about that. Thank you, River Valley Real Estate. Thank you, Stan Swift. Thank you, Aaron Codwallader. How do you say that?
Codwallader, yeah. Doug Allen, Tina Morrison, Pete Lind, Neil Henderson, Maria Reynolds, Cody Christofferson, Richard Wellman, and Chris Cochran. So thank you guys so much. Really appreciate the help.
Yeah.
So I got a question right here from Badger Dog, who asks, "Are you going to miss deck showers, Des?" Well, and so obviously deck showers meaning like how we used to shower on deck on Atticus I. So you're gonna miss that.
It's funny because Jordan's dad my father-in-law just got knee surgery, and so he's been having to do hose showers outside. And, he's like, yeah, it's really fun the first time. And the second time, it's like an experience and it's still pretty. And he's like, but I'm really kind of excited about having a real shower again. Mm-hmm. I was like, that's kind of how taking a deck shower is. But, yeah, it is beautiful. And it does kind of force you to go outside and look around. So I'll just have to force myself to do that now.
Yeah, and, I mean, it's one thing when it's nice and hot out. I think when we're in the tropics, we will shower on deck. Mm-hmm. But here... that's actually what's so fun about it. It's I mean, you know how it is. The term cozy is sort of, in that word is the idea that out there it is not cozy. But in here it is cozy, and that's what makes it cozy. And the shower has that feeling to me. It feels like I'm cheating nature. It's cold outside and I'm like, oh yes, but I am not cold. I am hot. So for that reason, I think, while it's not hot out, it's a real luxury. And once it gets hot, I'm sure we'll go back into doing it.
And something that's kind of fun is when we were living on Atticus I, we would, whenever we had to go to a marina, we would pay very close attention to the showering situation. And I'd be like, yeah, okay, where's the shower? And then I would turn on the hot water and be like, how hot are you? How long do you stay hot for? So it's kind of fun to not have that be a limiting factor anymore.
Yeah, to be honest, it's not even the shower itself as much as the hot water. Yeah. The hot water is so enjoyable. So once we do get... because even if you're in the tropics, at night, if it's windy, it can be a little painful to shower. And so we would, more than one time, go to bed a little bit dirtier than we should have. You know what I mean? Because it would get a little chilly. Anyway, so I think that's a huge... plus, and it's just, that's the kind of thing that we find ourselves every day just being so pumped about with this boat. Yeah,
I got another question. Aches North was asking, what's the ratio of boat project to YouTube creating that we're doing now?
Say that one more time.
What's the ratio of boat project to YouTube creation, video creating and editing?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So like we talked about in our little video today, I spend typically 3 days a week editing.
Sometimes 4.
But sometimes more, for sure. And so that would imply, maybe half the time editing. But the other thing is that filming projects takes a long time. Mm-hmm. So I'd say it's definitely more than half of our time is spent doing things that we wouldn't do if we didn't have a YouTube channel. Let me put it that way. Yeah, definitely over half our time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, roughly that. By the way, we did want to just say, with regards to our video today, we really want to mention that we like this whole arrangement that we've got. I'm tempted to call it a job. It's kind of a job, like what we do, making videos, spending that time making videos, we really like it. It's a really cool process for us. We like getting to be creative in addition to living the cruising lifestyle. So I think we both really enjoy it a lot. So we don't mind the fact that it takes us a long time to do this. All we were really trying to communicate with that was that sometimes it just isn't possible for us to make an episode in any given week because we don't have the actual content. Does that make sense? We literally, if I were to sit down and edit, I wouldn't have enough raw material to create an episode with. And so that's kind of the real bottleneck for our process right now. Mm-hmm.
And also, Jordan does the editing and the boat projects, and so
I know, right?
Such a good guy. But it would be probably a lot easier if I did the editing and you did the boat projects. That's kind of what Sailing Uma does, I think. Kika does the editing and Dan does the boat projects. And that probably is a lot more balanced. But in our situation, Jordan's just really great at both of those elements of life.
Yeah, to explain that a little bit, I've been doing editing since I was in high school. I'm making videos and stuff. So that's been my core passion my whole life. And then sailing became my secondary passion when I was in college. But film and video has been my passion forever. And so, in our relationship, I kind of entered this relationship with a background in video and film and a background in sailing. And so it kind of made sense that, I would be in on that stuff. And then Desiree does like all the back end for everything, whether it be Patreon or the YouTube stuff or merchandise. I mean, there's a lot of administrative and emails and stuff like that she does. So anyway, that's the kind of breakdown. You did not ask us to explain that, and we did, so you're welcome.
We just dove into it.
You're welcome. Yeah.
A couple more thank yous. Thank you so much to Jay Kugel81. Thank you to Jillian Naus, Bill Badger, Pete Bates, Alan Gamble. He says you should visit Newburyport. And then Blimp Commander says, have you thought about the Great Lakes route? Not sure of your draft down the Illinois and Mississippi, and Mass would probably need to be removed.
That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's just with our timing, as we've kind of mentioned in the past, our real big goal right now, in addition to having kids, which we're not pregnant yet, Desiree's not pregnant yet, but that's definitely, the short-term goal. But beyond that, we really want to cross the Pacific. And so we kind of are going to get the boat ready, cruise in Maine if we can, and then get down to Panama. That's pretty much our schedule right now.
Thank you, Dave Cragness. Thank you, Gib. Thank you, Amust. What is that? Oh, Amustashepti.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And Doug Allen, thank you very much. Josh Barnes, really appreciate it. Earl Hunt, Axe North, Julie LeMay, and Sailing SV Jesse Marie. Rock on. Thank you so much, guys. So we got another question here. A couple of people have asked what my tattoo means, and I don't want to bore anybody here, but this one is meant to be like this, and so it's basically just I used to tell people it's my two favorite shapes, but it's basically kind of an abstract thing of a mainsail sailing over the sunset. And it's something that we used to see all the time back in Key West when we were working on charter catamarans. It was like day charter catamarans. I was a captain, she was the first mate, and we would just take people out for sunset sails and snorkel trips. And all these boats would be positioning for the sunset, and regularly a big catamaran that didn't even have its head sail up, it was just motor sailing, would go right in front of the sunset. I mean, that image just kind of stuck in my head, so I got that. And then this is, if you're looking down at a sailboat, this is the way that wind flows over the main sail and the head sail.
And we actually got it. We got the image right out of a sail design book, and then we went to. I think we were in Panama when you got it, and the guy was like, "Do you want to do something special on the ends to like flavor it up a little bit?" And we chose some kind of like girly arrowheads, which
really weird arrows. Yeah. Anyway, so this is the way that air flows over sails to create lift. So there you go. Those are the tattoos.
I got a question from Joshua Middleman, one of our patrons. He says, after going north, do you guys know your planned course back to Panama?
That's a good question, and the short answer is not exactly. I bet you what would happen is we'd make it as far south, just coastal hopping the East Coast all the way down to probably North Carolina. And then from there, we might go straight to the Bahamas. We might just sail right past the Bahamas and go through the Windward Passage there between Cuba and Hispaniola. And then through there, we'd go to Panama. And the questions would be, do we stop in the Bahamas? Do we stop in Jamaica? Those would be the two main questions. And that'll just kind of depend on how much time we have. And that would hopefully be in probably like November or December, right around there.
Yeah, that's one of our like hard deadlines to be working towards. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to have a deadline.
Like pretend deadlines, though.
Yeah.
Deadlines that we're probably not going to make in a million years.
I guess so.
Because we just never do, you know. But it's all right. We're gonna do our best to try and make it happen. Mm-hmm. So, okay. So what else do we got here? I
got a question. If you
want. Go ahead.
Joshua Romay, another one of our patrons, was asking any words of wisdom after purchasing Atticus II for new boat owners. I
think that one thing that this is the thing that I've run across in talking to people in comments on our videos. It's in the title of this episode, or of this live stream, which is, did we buy a lemon? I think that having a really realistic expectation on what you're buying is a really good idea. And I feel like we came into this with fairly realistic expectations, but even we were optimistic with how much immediate work the boat would need. I don't, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someday I'll look back at myself and be like, yeah, that boat had more problems than it should have had, and that was that. But I don't think that's the case. I think that when you're buying a 24-year-old boat, when you're buying a boat that's selling for a third or a quarter of what it sells for when it's brand new, there's a huge amount of value that you're missing there, right? So if a boat costs, $750,000 when it's brand new and you're paying $200,000 or whatever, like, why is there that difference? And so I run across it time and time again where I see people, including ourselves, especially with Atticus I, that really over expect the condition that the boat's in, and really under expect how much work the boat's going to need. And so I think that's probably my number one thing to people looking to buy a boat, is try to have realistic expectations about what that boat's going to be and what it's going to need. Mm-hmm. The other thing I would say is just to try and have a long, prolonged, active research period in the market. Mm-hmm. And we kind of talked about that in the boat buying special sequence that we did.
That's what I would say. Just look at a lot of boats just to know what's out there. I'm really glad we looked at so many boats before we came to this one, because it makes me really, really appreciate this boat a lot. Mm-hmm. And then also something that's really cool about the Pacific Sea Craft 40, or Pacific Sea Crafts in general, is it has been really helpful working with the factory, the Pacific Sea Craft factory. So I would say if you can find a boat that has a really good community around it, it's really, really helpful to be able to kind of like brainstorm with other people who are all going through the same kind of learning curve with their own boat, and like making improvements to it that maybe one day you would make. So I think that's been really cool. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Atticus I didn't really have that because it was so old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, there's so much about this boat that I really enjoy. Like I'm enjoying getting to know the systems, mm-hmm. because how do I put it? Like I'm not reinventing the wheel on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, how is this designed? Mm-hmm. I figured out. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Like, mm-hmm. that's a good design. Mm-hmm. And if I want to change it, I can build on it. Mm-hmm. Just an example is that all of the hoses and the wiring on the boat, they all go, when they pass through bulkheads, they all go through grommets, like actual grommets that protect them from chafe. You know what I mean? Like, just little stuff like that on Atticus I mean, you could just forget about it. And so because of that, there's a system that those grommets and the rubber stuff that keeps the hoses and wires from chafing, that's going to make sure that system has one less failure point for decades and decades to come. Mm-hmm. It's just a silly example, but you can multiply that by 100. And you've got how everything was kind of well thought out, Yeah,
and then I guess the other thing I would say is, as far as advice for new boat people looking to buy a boat, is try to take your time, because again, it's so easy to get wrapped up in the emotion of buying a boat. And we actually really needed to buy a boat quickly for our video series. So we didn't really have the luxury of being able to like walk away from a boat that we were excited about, because maybe there would be another one out there later on, or maybe we could have spent more time throughout after the survey, like really diving in a little bit deeper into some of the issues that we found in the survey. That being said, I love this boat and I'm really happy with it.
Real quick, I think we should have boat be a drinking word. Okay. Because we're just not saying projects enough. Yeah. All right, cool. There you go, guys. You got one more. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. Oh, that was it.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay. All right, so let me do a couple more thank yous. Go ahead.
Yeah. But so in the meantime, because I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but I really think that because if you look at the projects that we've had to do, they're not that crazy, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we had a cable, a throttle cable, or a transmission cable that was chafed through. There's some elements to the whole control unit that's less than perfect, but it works, and it just needed some...
And actually, Pale Fox was saying, tell the truth. You guys thought some things were wrong, but you actually messed up the diagnosis.
Yeah. Well, again, we messed up the diagnosis for the transmission itself. Mm-hmm. The shifting not being easy, we did diagnose that correctly and fixed it, right? So the cable needed to be replaced. The control unit needed to be replaced. Mm-hmm. So those two things improve the situation. Now, we prolonged the issue by not tightening that shifting lever and then taking that off and taking it to a person. So yeah, that added a couple days of that project that was unnecessary. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I mean, we're talking little things like we needed to replace what do you call it? The valve and the solenoid for the propane tank. We needed to figure out the water system.
I'm just going to interrupt you for a second because Randy Gilmer says, why didn't the surveyor find these issues? If he was competent, all these issues would have been found. Sounds like he was a waste of money. And I would say, if you think about it, everything we've gone over in our videos was in the survey. And the stove...
With a few exceptions.
Yeah, the stove he turned on, and it stayed lit for like 30 seconds to a minute, and it all worked. We were watching him,
and he's like, "This works," and he checked it and then turned them off. You know.
And then the water system, all the tanks were full, so the water was working. And
remember, the water system. The problem was simply that we didn't understand how the manifold worked.
So we had it on the wrong tank,
and we couldn't fill them all. Mm-hmm. Right, we were just filling one tank 5 gallons at a time.
So the transmission was like one of the kind of issues, but that was in the survey, just the shifting difficulty.
Right. Yeah.
And then our toilet broke because something fell into it.
That's an object fell into the toilet.
That can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
The refrigerator and the heater stopped working because we removed the
transmission,
the grounding
through
the transmission.
Right.
So they're all reasonable. There's zero reason.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, literally, is there any other projects that I've had to do? There was, removing the impeller, which ironically, our surveyor, he didn't write it in the report because he would never write this in a survey. But he told me, he's like, you're going to have a hell of a time with that impeller because it's really hard to get to. So,
yeah.
I mean, really, I'm pressed to think of a single problem that we've had that the surveyor didn't do what surveyors do, which is tell you there's some kind of problem here, right? With the exception of the propane, and that's just because of the time, the delayed nature of that problem. You'd actually have to run it for a little while before it would stop working. And now that we just replaced the solenoid and the regulator, it's been working fine since. So I think that the survey issue really goes right along with this concept of, is this boat a lemon, and trying to have realistic expectations, because in a lot of ways I think what it comes down to, and I have that feeling too, I did this with Atticus I. We would see people get mired in boat projects on their boats, and I would say, that's not going to happen to me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm too clever for that. And so there's this, I think everyone has this deep fear, particularly if you don't know much about boats. Like, we really didn't know that much about boats with Atticus I. We still don't know that much about some boats, including this one. Mm-hmm. And so I think that there's a deep fear that most people have that, crap, what happens if I buy the wrong one? And so they want to believe that you can just buy the right one that's not going to require a lot of time and effort. And it's my opinion that a more healthy approach really is to kind of accept the fact that it's going to take you time and effort and energy
just to figure it out.
And the amount of time and effort and energy it's going to take is going to be inversely related to how much money you spend up front, basically, right? If you're dumb enough, I shouldn't say that. If you are adventurous enough as we were to buy a $5,000, 50 some odd year old boat, you got to be prepared to do a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of work. And if you want a boat at a 60% discount from brand new, you can expect to do some work to it.
And that brings up the question, Sylvain Dore was asking, what's the worst/hardest thing you'll have to do on Atticus II? And how does that compare to some of the projects you would have done on Atticus I? And so that's a great way to put it. Like on Atticus I, we were reinventing every system from the ground up and rebuilding like a lot of structure on that boat to make sure it would be seaworthy.
And we were doing it with very little resources, in particular like knowledge resources. So because the boat was so old, it was obvious that the chain plates had been changed probably more than once.
Yeah.
And the knees had been modified, the fiberglass knees, and I didn't know if they were good enough, right? I mean, they seemed like they were kind of small, and so we had to go up a size on chain plates. And so that means that we had to modify the way the chain plates connected to the knees, right?
And so I'm just going to interrupt you.
Yeah, sorry, because I interrupted you.
What do you think the hardest project on Atticus I was? And I'm tempted to say maybe like recoring the deck.
Yeah. Recoring the deck was for sure the hardest because, we had, by recoring the deck, then we had to remove all the non-skid.
All the fittings, everything came off.
Yeah, and then cut in and then redo the non-skid, repaint everything. And the fairing took months probably. And
so
well, I do want to just say though, because I feel like that chain plate analogy is a perfect analogy, because on Atticus I, there you are, the chain plates were glassed to knees that were glassed to the hull. I didn't like that, so we had to grind out the chain plates, grind down those knees, put new chain plates on in a new location with a different size. And so at each stage of that project, I would screw something up because I didn't know what I was doing. And so it's just kind of 2 steps forward, 1.5 steps back every day, trying to make a totally new system work on the boat. Whereas on this boat, the chain plates, if we want to replace them, we call Pacific Seacraft and say, I want a new set of chain plates. And they say, okay, it should be there like Friday. That's it. And then you swap them out, And so that's the biggest difference, I think, with doing projects on this boat and that boat. Not to mention that I don't really foresee as many huge projects, but if we do have them, there's a giant information support network that we have.
Yeah, and to answer Sylvain's question about what do we foresee the biggest project on Atticus II to be, like probably just installing the hardtop and designing it and making it really robust. And that it isn't even to make the boat seaworthy. That's just to make it more comfortable for us.
Yeah. And there's little stuff like with the engine. The engine's got a little bit of corrosion on it. And so I kind of am thinking about at some point just pulling the engine so that we can have it prepped and painted really well. And maybe have like a hard look at it once it's out of there. So, I mean, that would be kind of a big project. But at the same time, because we have such great access, it wouldn't be the hugest project, we do want to replace the rigging, so that will be a somewhat big project. But again, on Atticus I, like I didn't trust anything, and the rigging had been done really poorly before, so I couldn't trust the sizes of the tangs. I couldn't trust the size of the wire, and so I had to, from scratch, go back and redesign the whole thing. If you guys are interested and you have some time, go back and look at the old Atticus updates, because that's where I did a lot of this. And so you can see there was a video when I was like polishing the chain plates that we had bought, because it was just raw steel, like stock, bar stock, and I would have to sand it with 80 grit, then sand it with 120 grit, then sand it with 220, sand it with 3. Oh my god, it took me forever to polish all those. And then same with redesigning the rigging. I mean, just every project that we did on there, because it was reinventing the wheel, would take forever. So I'm going off the wheels on this, but I just really want to drive that home, that I feel like there's this spectrum, and on the one end of the spectrum is the idea that we bought a lemon. And on the other end of the spectrum is that all boats require work to the extent where they all require the same amount of work. And I think the truth is in between. I think all boats require some work, but some boats need a whole lot more work than others. And I think that to expect a boat to not need any work is probably never going to happen.
And it also
you just got to know where on that spectrum the boat's going to be.
And it also depends on what you want the boat for, what the purpose of the boat is.
Yeah.
And in our case, the work that it needs is to really upgrade it to make it how we want to use the boat. The boat definitely can be used to just marina hop on the East Coast, and it's in great condition for that. But we really wanted a boat that we could just take to the middle of nowhere, stock up on groceries, and then just like drop the hook in some like remote island and just feel fine and confident and well stocked.
Mm-hmm.
So that requires more work.
Yeah. Real quick, P Biz says you guys certainly seem happier with this boat. And I don't want to be like shallow about this or silly about it, but we have both realized that when we have a really hard day, like a really tough day, and we're just sort of like kind of, deep down a little bit like affected, and then we just sit down and have dinner and look around, we're like, yes. Whereas on Atticus I, if we had a really hard day and like the boat was a mess and we had like, you have that much room to sit in and I have this much room to sit in.
Only one of us is allowed to lay down at a time in the main salon because there's only one nice cushion.
It was just a lot harder to, what's it called? Like, it was a lot harder to keep the darkness at bay. You know what I mean by the darkness? Like kind of, that gloomy view of the world. It was harder to keep that at bay. Mm-hmm. What was cool about it is that you had to be mentally tough because that was the only thing you needed to be with that boat, really. You didn't have to be good at anything in particular. You just had to learn to like accept things. And that, I think, was something that boat was really good for us for. You know what I mean?
It's real tough, I think.
Tough-minded, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that makes me appreciate, like, anything now. Let's see. Keenan McKay says, big question. If you knew what you know now, would you have bought this boat or shopped some more? And it's funny because I wasn't as excited about this boat as Jordan was when we were going through the buying process because I was in love with another boat.
Well, we both were in love with the Valiant.
Yeah, but like every single day on this boat, and it feels so like dumb and cheesy to say. It sounds like what an annoying married couple says, like every day I love you more. But it's true. Like every single day, I like really, really appreciate this boat more and more, and I do. It's so cheesy, but I'll wake up and I'll be like, I love this boat, and I say it at least once a day. So I'm very happy with this boat. I'm in love with this boat.
If you were to actually take our feelings, like somehow like remove them from our brains and put them in your brain, you wouldn't think for a second that the boat was a lemon, if that makes sense, right? Like we're just so ecstatic about it, and it's been months. So real quick, Chad Towner, which first of all, Chad Towner in the house. What's up, Chad? He says, Buds, do you remember the project list I showed you on board SV Argo, which you guys saw SV Argo? It's the boat we went for a sail on when we...
it's called We Put an Offer on a Boat. Yeah,
and it's like when Bernie showed us around the yard, and then we wanted to go on a sail on a Valiant. Well, that was Chad's boat. And he says, it was long... So in reference to the project list that he showed us, he says, it was long. I bought her, quote, ready to go. She wasn't 50 plus... And she wasn't. $50,000+ was critical. I put another $100,000 in on top of that. So, and that's a great point because Chad's boat is beautiful. That thing is like, when we went on board that boat, we were like, "Wow, this is awesome."
Yeah.
And so the same thing though. I mean, he paid a little bit. Yeah, you paid more than we did for this one, and it was claimed to be ready to go. And as he's saying, needed an additional $50,000 just to get it actually like not critical issues.
This is
outstanding.
A great question. Brady One Girls 5. Brady's One Girl 5 asks, will you go on hiatus when you start to have kids? Probably off the boat to raise them when they are infants. And our kind of plan right now is to just do baby on boat until maybe they're in their, I think we decided we were talking about like, wait, I forgot. Until they're older and we want them to like socially integrate with society and everything.
Oh, you're trying to remember the age?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've talked about until they're like 12, I think.
Or maybe
I
like
think
14.
I think at 13,
13.
I'd really like to have a stable situation for them. So whether or not
as parental experts, that's what we're thinking.
No, it's just what I'm thinking. Yeah, right. We don't know what we're talking about, but from the kids that we've known in our lives and from what we know of the cruising lifestyle, we feel like we want to at like when they get around 13 to try to have them be, really the goal would be give them one high school and they stay in the one high school for their whole high school experience. So that's the goal that we would have now. A lot of people who have had kids on boats tell us that the optimal time where kids are capable of enjoying cruising and like have the attitude to enjoy cruising is 4 to 12. That's what we've kind of been told. Under 4, they say it's kind of crazy, and then after 12, well, you become a teenager and you're like the worst kind of person. But I was the worst kind of person. I mean, I think it's just something that happens, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, I think 4 to 12 is going to be what we're going to really go for.
Yeah,
you know?
That's the plan at least. I wanted to give a couple of thank yous. Thank you, Julie LeMay. Thank you, Sailing SV Jessie Marie. Thank you, John Warzecha. Thank you, Andrew Brigg, Bob Cochran, Chad, Tom72 Cutlass. Thank you, Ben Speasons.
Steve Smith. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, Steve Smith.
You want to continue?
Sure. G. Dollaway. Memels. Can you read that?
He says, when you're ready to take a vacation, here's a suggestion. The most amazing spot on the planet, Lake Powell. Ooh.
All right.
Rent a houseboat and jet ski. Ooh, that sounds great.
Thank you. In fact, when I'm thinking, can you just read them and say what we should say?
Sure.
Andy Smith. Thank you, Ronnie Marini.
And Andy Smith was asking, does Atticus II have a generator? What about air conditioning?
Neither at the moment. And so, and we actually saw quite a few people asking about generators, particularly Honda 2000s, gas-powered generators. And the boat doesn't have one. That would be an option, to just carry a generator on the boat. But I'd really love to not have to carry that much gasoline. And at the end of the day, like a good, solid alternator system is kind of the system to choose nowadays, because they have such high output alternators. I feel like that's the direction to go in. So thank you, Ronnie Marini. And then air conditioning. Desiree really wants air conditioning for those times when we're in the tropics and like in a marina and we have to edit a lot and stuff. And so that'll be an improvement that'll happen at some point.
And I will say, it's not just because I'm like a princess. Like I actually get migraines when it's really hot and we're working on the computer for whatever reason. My brain feels like it's gonna explode.
Yeah.
And air conditioning helps.
Sure.
And then Ronnie was asking if we're gonna be stopping near Boston Harbor, and we would love Boston. We would love to get those details. So if you can shoot me an email at des@projectatticus.com, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you to Carlos Jimenez, Tony Colon, Kalan, Antonio Howe, Tom Ruff, thank you, Boyd, Chicken Wings, Brad the Magnificent,
nice,
and Mike Barfield. So thank you so much, guys. You guys are super killer. We really appreciate you. Okay, so let's. I did have a question here that I wanted to jump into, which is
I've got another one too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's see. When do you project you'll be crossing the Pacific? That's an easy one from Angel Matos, and our plan is to do it in 2022. And then if the borders are not open by then, our plan B will be, after crossing the Panama Canal to the Pacific side, we'll just beeline it from Panama over to the Sea of Cortez area. And by beeline it, I mean do the long and arduous passage to get there.
Yeah, and just to give you a sense of the timing, we would probably try to leave Panama to cross in probably February, either to go to the Galapagos or Ecuador, and then probably go across in March. So that's the time period. Lynn Party is on the live stream.
Hi, Lynn.
So hey Lynn, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
She says, hey guys, just got in from helping on Sahula's refit. She's at the bottom of the garden. Avoid generator, cut back use of electricity instead. All right, duly noted, Lynn. We appreciate that. And how's Sahula's refit going? Let us know.
Yeah. Speaking of generators, Tom Enns, one of our patrons, was asking, would you ever consider converting the engine to electric?
Yeah, I would. And I bet you there's a good chance it would happen in our lifetime that I will. So how do I say that? We can't do anything not in our lifetime. There's a good chance at some point we will move to electric engine. We just, with our priorities, with our goals, I feel like there's too much that diesels do well. Diesel is still a more like energy dense matter than batteries are. And so, and realistically, I think that from like a what do you call it? An environmental standpoint, I don't think that small diesel engines on boats that use them as auxiliary power and power generation, you're probably talking about one of the greenest ways to use fossil fuels on the planet. You know what I mean? Like to move a boat every now and then for relatively short distances, and to create that little bit more electricity that you need that your solar isn't giving you. I feel like it's a pretty solid move. And so at some point that curve of like what diesel has to offer and what electric engines have to offer and what the regenerating abilities are. I mean, the day that they create like solar panel sails, I think will probably be the day that no one uses diesel engines anymore, you know? And so there's definitely a lot of possibilities out there, and I'm sure they're going to happen, and eventually we'll switch over. But for us, it's all about the trying to live an adventurous lifestyle with a certain like level of comfort, and I feel like diesel engines achieve both of those really, really well. Now, the downside of diesel engines, obvious, other than the whole fossil fuel thing, is the maintenance element. I mean, it is true that having a diesel engine on your sailboat is synonymous with being a part-time diesel mechanic, right? I mean, it's just you're not getting away from that, and it is a bummer. But to me, it's worth it, and I'm sure it will be for a little while to come. Yeah.
Another question from one of our patrons, Rob Tappan, is, are you guys planning on leaving the hull green or changing it at some point?
That's a great question. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts on the green hull? Because we kind of go back and forth. One thing I like about it is the fact that it's so identifiable. Mm-hmm. Like, people keep asking us, like, oh, where's your boat? And we're like, walk down the dock until you see a green thing. You know what I mean? So it's, I kind of like it for that.
Yeah. My thoughts on it are, for me, as long as the paint is in good condition, like, why fix something that isn't broken? And it looks nice. It looks really nice, I think. So to me, if the boat were painted like bright orange, I'd also be okay with it if it was a decent paint job. The one thing I'm wondering is, if it becomes a little too hot in the tropics, then we might want to consider painting it to white. But it'll be an expensive project, so it's probably not going to make our project list for quite a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing, is ultimately that would be a costly change, for the only reason being that we want a different color, because the paint is in great condition right now.
And what we're going to do in the meantime, if we eventually do switch over to white, a white hull, is I'm going to like slowly transition our canvas on deck from green to like a beige color. That way when we switch, if we switch, it won't be that weird.
And Lynn Party says, thanks, the refit is becoming a bigger job than expected. As usual. Hey, look at that. Who would have thought? She's completely empty. My shed is completely full, but no major surprises, just some expected rust in hard to get to places. Yeah, I hear you. Well, I hope it goes as smoothly as possible for you guys, and that hopefully we'll see you here in the next, I guess, what would it be? A year from November, right? If we end up all the way in New Zealand. So you never know. We'll give it a shot.
Or are you going to be at the boat show this coming year, Lynn? Maybe we'll see you there.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about meeting up again at Annapolis.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let me look over here and see what we've got.
I've got a new question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Steve Irwin was asking, are the beds in the new boat comfortable? Are they foam or are they inner spring mattresses? And the V-Berth mattress is like a custom inner spring mattress, and it's amazing. I love it. The mattress in the quarter berth is just like polyurethane foam, and it's not high density, so it looks nice. I'm sure they redid it recently to like make it look, presentable. But for a liveaboard, it's not ideal. We slept in it when we had my sister and her boyfriend come and visit. And it wasn't super comfortable. So we're going to be I'm going to be testing a mattress for a mattress company in that quarter berth. So I will let you guys know what I think of it. And then on Atticus, we used latex foam for all of our mattresses, and I definitely recommend that because it's really comfortable. It's antimicrobial. It breathes really easily.
Yeah, the only downside is it's expensive and it's heavy.
Super heavy.
It's very heavy. Yeah. But I mean, it was amazing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what we would do is just like with the bed, we did, was it 3 inches of like dense or firm, and then 3 inches of soft. And that just did the trick.
Yeah. But if I were to do it again, I would do like 5 inches of firm and then 2 inches of soft.
Yeah. But yeah, what we really need to do, we'll probably do it here soon, is we'll do like a boat tour. Because I know we did it when we were doing the boat series, but really it didn't look that good because it was covered and it wasn't like lived in. So we really ought to do that soon. Yeah. So Warrior Bard 24 asks, Jordan, would you make your own hardtop again or have it built for you? And I really enjoy doing that kind of stuff. I'll say that first of all. I really enjoy fabricating with fiberglass. Because it's like Dr. Seuss world. You can kind of make whatever crazy thing you can think of, and that's fun. It just takes so much time, and it takes more time than I've got. I mean, that hardtop in Isla Mujeres that we built, how long do you think I was working on that thing?
4 months.
4 months? Not full time, though. No, there's no way I was working full time.
We were working also. So you're doing it in your free time.
I think I was able to do it like part-time most of the time for like a month, and then really part-time, like not that often, for a couple months. But it just took me so much time to do, and there's no way that people would like stick around and watch me work on that thing day in, day out. I mean, people do like that. I'm sure some people would like to watch it, but it's not the kind of thing we want to be doing. You know what I mean?
I also think it would put us behind schedule. So again, our big goal is to cross the Pacific in 2022, I meant. And so if we spent that much time having to make the hardtop ourselves and film it, that's basically all we would get done between now and leaving the United States. And so I'd rather get a lot of things done, and then get a chance to explore a little bit also. Yeah,
because at this point, that really is the balance that we're doing, is on, how much time are we going to spend actually cruising, and how quickly are we going to get up and running with that. And so in order to do that in some sort of a reasonable amount of time, we're going to have to outsource some of these projects, and I think that the hardtop is going to be one of them. And we've been talking a lot about going with the Pacific Seacraft factory that's in North Carolina. They've talked about how they would make the hardtop for us, and what's really neat about that is they actually have like a like a stern mold, the aft section of a PS40 that they can use to build the hardtop. So they can build the hardtop without us even being there.
That's pretty
and
cool.
we know it'll fit perfectly, and it'll be built by the people that build these boats. And so that's a very attractive situation, and one which, you know, we could be cruising, you know, working on the boat up here, cruise Maine, head south, and then basically have a hardtop waiting for us to install. So, and this hardtop is going to be like, I've got completely unrealistic goals for this hardtop. Like, I want it to do everything. I want it to have a ton of solar. I want it to have rain catchment. I want it to convert into a full enclosure if we want. Complete shade in the cockpit. I also want davits for the dinghy. And I still want to be able to have a monitor wind vane on the back, which just that alone will be tricky. We're going to have a freaking 15 horsepower outboard, hopefully, with the dinghy. And so we need to have like a crane to lift up the 15 horse. So this thing is going to be just a beast. Did I mention water collection? I think I did. Anyway.
And lights.
And lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's gonna be cool.
Stacy DePaolo was asking, will you be reading PayPal donations? And the app that we're using, I thought, has been showing us PayPal donations, but if you've left a PayPal donation tonight and I didn't read your comment, I'm really sorry. I have to look into that.
Yeah, no, we can check it out. You want to do a question, and I'll just look it up.
I'll just do a couple more thank yous also. Yeah. I think we already. Well, thank you, Brad the Magnificent, Charles Young, Mike Barfield, Scott Lyon, Julie LeMay, Lipham, Emily. She says, if you plan on using dinosaur juice to recharge it, you can get diesel generators, and a small generator is more fuel efficient than the main motor. Thank you, Speeft. Thank you, Jeffrey Robbins. Thank you, Sailing Vessel Lorana. And then I'll just switch to another question. Oh, he's got a question here. He's saying, you will love the Maine coastline and Camden is great. What pieces, parts, or stuff from Atticus I will you be bringing to Atticus II besides little shit? Do you have a list? Definitely all of Jordan's tools.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. It's just the tools. My
sewing machine. We've got an Edson manual emergency pump.
Yeah, let me think.
My pans, a lot of my pans. Galley stuff.
And then a lot of, not spares, because spares, would be specific to Atticus I. We'll leave them, but materials. So I had slowly accumulated, like, the best stockpile of potential materials. I mean, I had, Dyneema line in several different diameters. I had, like, thousands of 316 stainless steel fasteners, like every size nut, every size bolt, so that if a project popped up, I had exactly what I needed. We had adhesive tape, we had, dual lock, we had, lots of different chemicals and stuff. The chemicals probably won't come. But anyway, so just a lot of the materials that are handy to have with boat projects, that'll all come up, because that's all, really expensive to replace. Yeah, so we got the PayPal donations up here. So a quick thank you to Geeks in Michigan, Warren Droms, Michael Mills, Garrett Dolloway, Thomas Mirabella, Peter Linderman, Ronald Jersky, Bruce Heydrich, and Ken Pitzer. Yep. So Thank you so much, guys. Yeah. You guys are awesome. Oh, no.
What happened? Are we live?
There's just no video feed.
Oh, cute.
Okay. One moment. Quick, okay, Desiree, sing a song.
I'm going to do a couple thank yous.
Oh my God. Guys, this is so crazy. I wish you could see this. It's nuts. Desiree, put your shirt back on.
Put that thing back where it belongs, buddy. There's no time for that now.
I'll do what I want.
Whoa, Jesus. Is it supposed to be wet? Okay.
Oh my God, boy, Bud, you should really have that looked at by a doctor.
I've been thinking about that. Yeah. David Noe, thank you so much. Thank you, Shane Justice. Bruce Bolton, Valeria D'Souza, USMC Drifter, and they were asking, are you afraid of the bad luck in renaming the boat? I guess I'm not super superstitious, so I'm not worked up about bad luck with renaming the boat, but we'll see what happens. I guess my thought about superstition is, like, if you have good intentions and put good intentions out in the world, like, maybe you won't have as bad, maybe bad luck isn't really
maybe
a
you'll
thing.
be able to put a sentence together.
Yeah. I don't know. Alex Harper was asking, what kind of drone do you use for aerial footage? Oh, it just went out again.
Yeah, I know. I'm changing the battery.
Gotcha. And we just switched to a Mavic 2 Plus?
2 Pro.
Mavic 2
No, or
Pro.
Mavic Pro 2.
Mavic Pro 2.
Okay,
And
we are back, people.
yeah, and to answer another person's question, Jordan does all of our drone footage. And one of our patrons was asking if we've ever lost it or had to go find it. And we've hit something. Jordan has run into 2 trees, but luckily the first time we found
what are
it,
we talking about?
the drone.
Oh, yeah.
The first time we found it, like, on a deserted beach, randomly, we had like 4 people out looking in the jungle for us.
Yeah.
Couldn't find it.
I was looking at the video screen. I was like, it's next to a bush that has like greenish brown leaves. And like everyone's climbing over this island trying to find it.
Yeah. So somehow we found it that time. Then the second time, we were coming in between this like narrow channel, like a river, and Jordan was cutting the corner and ran into a tree, and it would have fallen in the water, but it was literally just suspended on this branch that was like bobbing up and down, and there's the drone.
Yeah, literally 10 feet above the water, and like the branch was all the way out, and the drone was just sitting on it. So we had to paddle up, and we had a buddy boat with us, and one person hit it with a paddle so it would go up, and then we had to catch it from the dinghies. It was crazy. Yeah. We really need to release that footage. We never did release that, did we?
We weren't filming. Our friends were just filming on their phone.
No, we totally... I have footage of the drone like being like... And then you see like this like leaf come into the screen, and then it just like freaks out. It's so funny.
Gosh.
Okay, so we got... Let's see here. I'm sure we got a couple more
Thank you, Bill O'Neill. He's saying, glad to see you both. Can you recap your plans and location? I joined late. We are currently in Branford, Connecticut. We will soon be heading up the coast between Branford, Connecticut and Maine, looking for a marina/boatyard that we can do some of our outfitting to Atticus at, while also exploring the New England area. And then we'd like to leave the United States by November to book it all the way back to Panama to attempt to cross the Pacific in 2022. Whew.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jack Rutherford. Thank you, Bossman. And thank you, DeMayer0311, Guy Breton.
Okay. So real quick, Sylvain Dore asks, when you redo the rigging, are you staying with Staylock or are you going with Dyneema? And we haven't really made up our mind with that.
Yeah.
I used to say we would totally do Dyneema. Now I'm kind of wondering about sticking with just Staylock fittings and metal wire. So we still need to think about that. The jury's still out on it. And then Hayne Justice asks a good question. He says, how do you launch your drone when you're at sea, and what is return to base like? Can you stay where you were when you launched the drone? And yeah, it's a tricky thing.
It's so nerve-wracking.
It's very nerve-wracking every time. Basically, what I do is if the boat's moving, if we're just motoring, then we can stop the boat and I fly it in manually, and then Desiree will catch it. But if we're sailing, we can't stop sailing. And so to launch it, we just hold it in our hands, and they do a pretty good job. As long as there's nothing downwind, they do a good job of launching right out of your hand. Coming back in is tough. I have to face the drone away from us off to the side of the boat so that the controls are really intuitive. Like going right pushes it right, left. And I try to match the speed of the boat. and then once the speed is kind of matched, which is tough because it's a tiny little thumb stick, and then once the speed is matched, then I have to slowly bring it in, and then once it's like over Desiree, then as I'm matching the speed, I bring it down, and then Desiree grabs it.
Even thinking about it gives me like a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, it's always very nervous.
No matter how many times I catch that stupid thing, like every single time I'm like, I'm either going to lose a finger or drop it into the ocean today. Today's the day.
Yeah. So that is a trick. But, realistically, we don't do that. We haven't done that much in the past where we're full on sailing and we launch and retrieve and recover the drone. And in fact, we've never done that offshore except for when the wind is really light. And so I don't think we would ever, when there's a sea running, like actually deploy and retrieve the drone in like 3 to 6 foot waves. I just think it would be too dangerous.
Also wanted to give a huge thank you to Dr. Mike Merrithew, and for all of your Amazon gift certificates. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And also 400 AGL, and he's wondering, Jordan, are you CFR Part 14107 certified?
Ooh, I don't know. Look that up. Google that real quick.
Uh-oh.
I want to find out if I am or not. Does it have to do with being devilishly good looking? You think that's funny, bud? Good thing it's just you and I here, because that would be kind of an arrogant thing to say.
Commercial drone pilot.
I'm gonna have to consult my lawyer on that one before we.
Sailing SV someday. What's up, Mike and Darla? Steve and Darla. Sorry, I was like, that sounds weird. I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you. Aw, and
thanks, guys.
Yeah, and let us know how your move is going, and if you guys find a boat that speaks to you, we're really excited to follow your progress too.
And then Stacy DePaolo, good call. She wants to say that Warren Drums said extrusion boat project. Yeah. Sorry guys, it's been a little while. Project extrusion. Oh, yeah. In fact, before we dive too much into this, I did want to actually say what the projects are that we've got left before we can leave Brantford. I don't want to bore you, but I figure it'd be cool to. I'm gonna bore you. I'm just gonna force it down here.
Let's just post the list somewhere.
Let me say it real quick. Okay, we got to rebed the hinges for the lazarette hatch because they're leaking a little bit. We got to caulk the lower joints in the shower and the wood joints in the galley because there's some standing water that's doing a little damage. I still haven't gone through the boat to locate and test all of the sea cocks, so that's something I want to do. It was done in the survey, but I want to know where they all are. We got to replace the engine compartment access panel gasket. That gasket is really old and flat. Rename the boat, which we're in the middle of. Figure out how to get a dinghy. We need to reinforce the stern rail using Dyneema line for a kind of jerry-rigged, stiffened stern rail that can take a larger outboard than it was really designed for. I want to test the batteries by unplugging from shore power for like 24 hours, just see how they do. Install our new Mantis anchor, order our new anchor chain, double check that the rig is tuned well, and then I need to write up the hardtop design brief for Pacific Seacraft so they can get us a quote. And then I want to double check the set screws on the shaft flange for the actual prop shaft. Those set screws, I want to double check they're tight, but specifically I want to redo the seizing. And then there's a scupper hose on the port side that's got a little crack in it that's leaking. And in fact, as I've looked around the boat, pretty much all the scupper hoses look original to me, and they pretty much all need to be replaced. But that can wait till later. And that's it. So that's what we've got left before we can head north. Pretty much, yeah.
A big thank you to Joshua Koski, Brad Bond, John Bond, Mark L, Avalon Kurthrell, Gib. I'm so bad at this. Gib, can you do this one? I was up till midnight yesterday printing postage for our Kickstarter reward, so I'm a little slow right now.
G. Drasek.
There you go.
Yeah.
And Emily, that's an easy one. And then Lance, Tenjed.
Yeah. And G. Drasek says you should consider a hydrovane versus the monitor. Definitely something that we'll look into.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's interesting because as we've worked on Atticus I, now on Atticus II, we're very brand loyal, right? Because once we find a brand in the marine industry that we feel does a good job, does really quality work, and has really quality products, we're very wary to move from that brand. And Monitor, Scanmar is the name of the company. I mean, I feel like they do a really good job. They make a really good product. So we may look into hydrovanes, but odds are we'll probably stick with Monitor.
And we should probably wrap up, but I did want to answer one more question from one of our patrons, Stacy DePaulo. She was saying, are you still selling Atticus I? And is someone taking care of it right now? And we are still planning on selling Atticus I.
Is someone taking care of it?
Yeah, we've got it on the hard in a really nice marina and
in Shelter Bay.
Panama. And so they're taking care of it. We could probably ask someone to go, check in on it more often. But yeah, it's in good hands. And then Stacy was asking if we're planning to fly back to Panama before we go to Maine, and I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know when we're gonna.
I don't know. Yeah, it just hasn't happened yet. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll have to really figure it out.
Yeah. And real quick, I just wanted to say, Peter Lyman said, aside from the water collection, a stainless steel arch for the solar would do all the same stuff. Are you building a hardtop over the entire cockpit and stern? And it's a good question. We're not entirely certain which direction we're going to go with that. I do like arches. And that you can kind of tie in some canvas and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. My deal is that I'm a tall guy, and so just doing an arch that ties into the bimini wouldn't be enough. I don't like super tall Dodgers. Yeah, so what I'm talking about is an arch tying into the Dodger wouldn't work for me, and I don't like super tall Dodgers. So what I would like is a fairly low profile Dodger, and then something that I can stand under in the entire cockpit and have shade in the entire cockpit. And once we get to that level, it kind of seems to me like a hardtop would be a better bet, particularly because of the water catchment. But we're still open because one thing Pacific Seacraft said is whenever someone comes to them looking for a hardtop, the thing that is the showstopper is that you couldn't remove it for a hurricane, which is a good point. But I can't help but think that if that's the thing that's going to fail in a hurricane, I don't know, the odds that you're going to have some other problem is so high. You know what I mean? I think the scenario where your boat would have been just fine if it weren't for that hardtop, I think that's such a slim chance that would ever be the issue. More likely it's going to be, you did a good job securing your boat and another boat that wasn't so well secured came into you, or everyone did a good job of securing their boats, but there's such a huge tidal flood that everyone comes undone. I mean, there's just so many scenarios that don't include your hardtop being the issue. Anyway, Desiree's too tired to tell me I'm talking too long about that. Boy,
very good point.
We should probably.
You are nailing it right now, buddy. Keep going.
This is funny. Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, we should wrap up. It's been so much fun hanging out with you guys tonight, and we will catch you next week on our episode, which will be mostly about the bilge pump and then probably taking Atticus out for a sail. So yeah, we hope to see you next week.
And I feel like we should just wrap up by saying so do we think this boat is a lemon? I think we couldn't be further from that feeling ourselves. We just want you guys to understand how happy we are in this boat, and how every morning we wake up and every evening we sit down for dinner and we just look around. We're just so pumped about this boat being the platform that we're going to live on and adventure on for the foreseeable future. So I think here in the next couple months that we're going to be making so much progress on this thing and moving on this thing that it's going to be hard to remember that was even a thought in our minds.
Also want to give a huge thank you to Dave, our moderator. It is really late in Ireland right now, so thank you for sticking with us.
Thanks, Dave.
Always being available. Dave was with us since like our second live stream ever when we were very awkward on camera still. Maybe we still are, I don't know.
Yeah. And that's probably only because our first live stream, there was literally no one watching. It was just us and like my parents.
Yeah. You're doing great.
You're doing great.
And also, if you guys never want to miss another live stream in the future, you can always text the word Atticus to the number 43506, and that service is available only in US. I'm sorry for those of you who can't partake in that. I'm like dwindling.
You're almost done, bud.
Is it 9?
Going.
Yeah, 9
Keep
o'clock
going.
is my bedtime.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, yeah, thank you so much for joining us tonight. That was a blast. Hope you had a good time.
I did want to do a couple more thank yous before we signed off.
Sure.
Though. Thank you, Daniel, Sharknado, Tomato, Mark Pfeiffer, David Bailey, Scott Wise again. He says, "What question do you wish was asked, and what question do you wish was asked, and what is the answer?"
You just gotta believe. You just gotta follow your heart.
Is that a question?
That's the answer.
So the question is,
like,
how?
What should I do with my life?
You just gotta believe.
And I'll just say, you just gotta follow your heart. That's it.
It's really beautiful, buddy.
Yeah,
you should write poetry.
Yeah, tell me about
it. Thanks, Kyle Gata. And Mr. Deebster. Mr. Deebster.
You
Love
did
it.
You did it, buddy. Okay, cheers to Dave. You're awesome. Thank you so much. And for everybody else, Extrusion, Boat Projects, and we'll see you guys next Thursday.
Oh, and then a huge thank you to all of our patrons for your great questions tonight.
Thank you so much, guys. You guys rock. You guys are the best.
Oh, and last announcement, for those of you who donated to our Kickstarter campaign, thank you so much for making this possible.
Absolutely.
And your rewards should be coming very soon, so look out for them and send us pictures when you get them.
I'm pumped about these rewards. They're going to be awesome.